Alright guys, so what we're going to do next is we're going to be changing out these OEM clip-ons for some aftermarket ones. Ergos are a definitely individual approach based on the person and really based on your goals. With the original clip-ons here, I can, lean over pretty well. But for me, the main issue was the master cylinder here prevented the brake lever from being adjusted downward more. So when I'm going to reach for the brakes, I'd like it more kind of like this angle, so I can have just a couple things on it. But here, like, it keeps my wrist a little further back, which is not quite as ideal for my situation. So we're going to switch that out for some aftermarket ones. Clip-ons are one place that people say definitely don't want to cheap out on, just because these are the controls for your motorcycle. So if something happens to that when you're riding it, God forbid, when you're going super fast, bad things can definitely happen. So you definitely want to get some good ones. So yeah, I went ahead and got some Woodcraft Riser Assembly clip-ons, and with those you don't have to mess with the OEM fairings at all. These actually come over the fairings, but still allow you that adjustability that you can get from the aftermarket clip-ons. They do have a track version where you do have to cut the fairings, so just make sure that you're paying attention to which one you order. But as you can see, one of the limitations here is you got this bolt here, and that basically prevents any inward or outward movement of this handlebar as well. So there's a few things that we'll adjust. Right now, you can see the clip-on is on top of the triple tree, but the Woodcraft ones we're actually going to be installed it below that, but it just comes up a little bit, so that's already going to allow some a little bit lower of a grip and kind of feel. So first thing we got to do is just basically take this all apart. Right here, where it attaches to the triple clamp, is going to be a number 6 on the side and number 5 hex on the top. So you want to loosen those off. You want to loosen these off as well, and you want to basically slide off the grips and the throttle that you got there as well, or the other way around. But so we're gonna go ahead and do that next. Once you have everything off, you basically want to take it real slow and mark up everything a few times, because one of the things you have to do is drill into the new assembly to get this set up and this set up, and then you also want to make sure everything is lined up appropriately and nothing's going to loosen up while you're riding it. So so just gotta please keep those in mind, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so I'm kind of taking this apart both at once, but depending on your level, you definitely want to just make sure you're taking it slow. So first thing you want to do is remove this number 5 here, because if you remove the one on the side first, this one just gets a little harder. You don't want to cross-link that. So I'm not really going to use it again, in theory, but just, it's just better to do it that way. So take out the number 5, and then take out the number 6 on the side. Once you do that, basically you got all full motion for this, so that makes it so you can take all the rest off kind of easier. Same thing on the side, and then the other side, you got number 5 and number 6, and it's actually going to be number 5 here that we're going to remove next. After that, we're going to take off the lever guards right here, and that's going to be a number 6 on the side there as well, once we get to that one on both sides. Alright, so once you get your lever guards off, the next thing we got to do is remove this starter, and that's going to be with the screwdriver with the Phillips head. And then you got a number 10 over here for the clutch lever, and another 2 screwdrivers for the turret signal assembly. Alrighty, so I have the right side completely taken apart. These are the throttle wires here. Just be very careful, because there is 3 pieces to this. There's a large piece in the front, the back, but also this middle piece in the middle that's on the side that can come out. So just make sure you don't lose that and that it all stays connected. When you do that, you can see all this is pretty loose. This throttle will just come right off. This is the R6 throttle tube on mine. You might have the OEM one, but I switched mine out a while back. And then you just pull off the clip-on there. We're going to do the same to this side now. So there's a few ways to get off the grip on this side. I find the easiest way is to just use some WD-40, and I use that tube just to spray a little bit of WD-40 inside here, and then I basically just use some muscle grease to just twist it back and forth, and then just yank it right off. Some people put in a little bit of pressurized air, and that can work as well. You just want to kind of break the seal, and then you can kind of slide this off the grip there. Once you do that, you want to release the clip-on here, and then you basically slide this off the clip-on, so you don't have a lot of length with these wires here, with the cables here, so you got to make sure that so you just kind of keep this kind of in place, and you slide the clip-on out of that. So do that when you're doing the left side on the brake side, okay? Or on the clutch side, rather. Alright, so here we have a bike with no clip-ons. This side was actually pretty tough to remove. I actually had to kind of twist the clip-on back and forth, and I did so I slowly but kind of lifted it up a little bit, and I did so it kind of released, and I was able to kind of slide that off. So you might have to put in, you know, a little bit of extra muscle for. Alright, so I went ahead and opened up the packaging for the Woodcraft Riser Clip-ons. So here you can see there's a clamp set, and this is the other part. So these are the two parts that you're going to actually put together first. And Woodcraft actually comes with instructions as opposed to some other stuff you might get, which kind of lets you figure it out on your own. So this will be helpful. First thing we're going to do is put these two pieces together with the bolts here, and we're going to just Loctite that down since those are things that we won't have to remove again. These pieces here, you know, if something were to bend or break, say you're gonna crash, you don't want to necessarily Loctite any of the other stuff on there, just because you might want to, you know, take that out at some point. So main thing we got to Loctite is just right here as we put those together. So these pieces are machined really well and kind of made it dummy proof. So you basically want to just line this up on this side with the groove that's on that side, and it's got a left and a right. So you just want to make sure you get all that connected in the right position. So when putting this together, you do want to be careful. This is the right clip-on assembly. You can tell because the W is on the right side. And with the left one, the W is going to be on the left side. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to that. On the clip-on bracket here, they actually have right and left stamped on the back here. So you just want to make sure that you're connecting the right ones. The other thing that you want to pay attention to is just make sure it just lines up. Everything should basically be seamless. So if you do put it in the wrong direction or on the wrong side, you can tell pretty quickly right away because it won't be as, you know, smoothly uniform as it looks here. So you're going to have 2 5mm here and then a 4mm there, and those are the ones that we Loctite. And so now we got that part set up, and we can go ahead and install these onto the bike. So kind of like a lot of my videos go, we end up kind of finishing up. I had to go for a bike night and I wanted to finish getting on the clip-on so I actually could ride. So sometimes I have to take a few edits and just take a little while longer to actually make the camera portion. So I figured I'd just come back to it and walk you guys through kind of the troubleshooting and some of the things that I ran across. I'm gonna actually post the link to Brian Van with Sportbiketrackgear. I used his video to help me a lot, and he's got, you know, much more detailed and in-depth video as to how to kind of put these on. But I just wanted to go over some of the things that I kind of went through. One of the big things is that you actually have a metal piece right here, which is a guide, which for the cables on your initial setup with the OEM, and you actually have to remove that with a bolt that goes right under here. That bolt is a number 5, but you want to be really careful because literally on the first try I wasn't really paying attention, and I kind of did it without looking at it, and I instantly stripped that bolt somehow. So I spent like 10 minutes longer trying to get it out, or even maybe longer than that, and I just wasn't able to. So I ended up having to take off the whole triple tree, which wasn't bad. You just got to take off these pinch bolts here, which is a number 6, and then this is the 32mm bolt. So this is something that I had too. So I just, you know, took that off, flipped it over. I had to end up just, you know, taking out that bolt the hard way, and then I finally got that out. So just kind of pay attention to that. You know, you can't really see it from on top, but make sure you got that Allen key or whatever you're using really well set in there, because that one will strip very quickly. So that's kind of the first thing that I'll talk about. After that, you know, most of this is pretty straightforward. You basically, you know, you put your clip-ons, make sure you got them on the right side. So you got the left one on the left side here, and then once you basically get the clip-on plugged in at the bottom, you put in 2 pinch bolts here, which are number 5s. You got 2 pinch bolts on the other side, and on the Woodcraft instructions that kind of go over how to tighten those. But you basically want to just go over them just like one slowly at a time and just kind of go back and forth just to make sure it kind of tightens evenly. You don't want to fully tighten it just so you can have some adjustability, but for the most part you do just kind of keep this all the way up at the top. That's kind of the first place you want to start, and then if you want to lower it, I think Brian Van had said that you could lower it a little bit. I might try that later on, but that's kind of where I started off. In terms of placement for me, one of the things that I did was I just kind of made sure I just wanted to have these as far out as possible. I felt just really cooped up with the old setup, so I just basically saw how far of an extension I could go without actually contacting the wood screen, and that's how I basically figured out how far out I can put these bars. So that was kind of an easy setup. I didn't have to do a lot of the stuff that he was doing in the video, just to measure and things like that, because I basically just put it in full lock, and Once I did that, I basically just twisted this as far as I could get it, and then I locked it in there just as an initial placement. Once I did that, then you go ahead and you put your rod on. I ended up doing the clutch side first. So you put your rod, and then this, was kind of hanging there, so we just slid that through. And then I put some WD-40 into here to get this grip on this side. After that, the trickiest part is that you do have to drill a hole into the rod here. So once you have that on there, you want to kind of do it as a dry fit first and kind of set this up and see exactly where this is going to go, because on the back of this piece, there's actually a little like inlet that goes actually into the rod here, and what that's for is to prevent this from turning basically. So now that's really stuck in there. So that's what you really want to figure out and measure. And if, like I said, if you want a more in-depth version as to how to do that, check out that STG video that goes over that. But I kind of eyeballed it and it worked out. So I just you just kind of set it up, get it to where it needs to be. But they do have the old adage, measure twice and cut once. So definitely be careful about that. You want to make sure your grip is basically right at the line here. So that's where I have it set up here. So it's right at the line here, and then eventually I'm going to put on my lever guards there. So that's for the clutch side. So that's pretty straightforward. The other things for ergos, you want to kind of set it up so that way you're not having to kind of reach too much over to reach for that clutch. So just like a really quick grab, you don't want it too far out, too far in. So those are just personal preferences that you'll want to set up and just kind of figure out. And when everything is set in stone, so you can always put it in and kind of mess around with it, see what other options there are. This side, is a little bit trickier. You got your throttle on this side, so you got to get that, set up properly. I actually found kind of silly. I was messing around with it a lot, kind of working on it from this side. But when I was putting the throttle cables together, if you actually stand really simple, but if you just stand on this side and put it together, it actually kind of gets together a lot easier. You do have to kind of route the wires a little bit over. That's one of the things that they mentioned. I have the cables rather. I have braided lines, so it wasn't as, I think, tricky. So I just had to kind of push this one over a little bit just to get it to sit. But yeah, they do recommend bleeding the brakes, but I had plenty of brake pressure even after doing that. So I think with the braided lines, you don't have to worry about that as much. I do, kind of do have to do service on the bike soon, so I'll probably check everything out pretty soon anyways. But in either case, you go ahead, you put your throttle on, you do the same thing, you want to dry fit it. This one, the inlet is a little off center, so you do want to just make sure you just do that correctly and make sure you have it lined up so that you have it here, so that way it's all kind of in the position that you want it in. So this is one of the good things here. I wanted to push this back even further just because, like I was talking about earlier, you want to be able to kind of reach over. Here my fingers still kind of hit it. Even if I put it, I don't want to put it out too much further. I want to be able to kind of reach for it if I want to with two fingers. So that's why I like this position, but a little bit further out would have been nice, but you are limited right here by those two little plugs here, and then they actually touch the clip-on. So I have this basically as far down as possible and then as far down this way as possible. So that's kind of the limitation there, but definitely much better than it was. So I actually was able to take this, like I said, on a ride with, for bike night, and it was great. Night and day difference from the initial OEM setup. So I'm really happy with this, and I'm really excited to take this on the track. When you're putting this throttle tube on, just make sure that you have a little bit of grease under there. That just makes sure that this doesn't lock up and get slides properly. Other than that, you want to make sure you just put your screws in properly. Don't force anything. Do everything kind of slow and careful, because you don't want to break anything. And then just make sure you do everything extra tight. I tightened up everything yesterday, as we went through it, and at the end I literally went through every single one, just retightened it just to make sure that there was nothing that I was even missing. And even today I went through it again just to triple check. So I didn't have any looseness, of course, but never hurts to double check that, especially if you're going fast on these bikes. So yeah, so you want to make sure, like I said, that once you're finally set up, that you can turn your handlebars all the way and it's not going to have any issues, because you don't want to find that out on the road. That all of a sudden you can't turn your wheel all the way that it needs to go. You also want to make sure that your throttle clicks back. So really important to make sure that that's working properly, that your brakes are working and that your clutch is all working. So obviously, make sure everything's working before you actually go for a ride. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of how to do these clip-ons. Not too bad. Just want to make sure that you do everything appropriately. And like I said, if you want some further detail, check out that Brian Van SCG video. Those videos he puts out are really great.